going to sit because I really just want this to continue the conversation that we've been having. My goal when I did this presentation was really to try to make it a conversation, and I think we've already sort of had that conversation today. From Lynn starting with embrace your inner bitch, to the secrets of leadership. I can't, I think everything that the people that you've said, that the people that have been up here have said, you're going to find a place in the things I'm going to ask us to kind of talk about. Everything that they've said, find a place in here. I'm a real analytical brain. I'm the computer analyst that's turned soccer coach. And so anytime there's a problem put in front of me, I want to program it out. The solution is really analytical to me, and numbers matter to me. It's why I can operate in Don's world every once in a while with the physiology, because I love the numbers. And so when Diane and I had a conversation about things that led to this topic of overcoming gender inequality, I couldn't just stand up here and talk about what I thought, because to me that's not who I am. I'm a pretty objective person. That's why Em and I get along, because we can talk objectivity. So I wanted to get some objective numbers, and I'm going to throw these up here kind of fast, only because I want it to be the starting point of the conversation, not the end point. One of the things is you all look at that picture and go, wow, that's pretty cool, right? It's a female up there talking about, things of the game, but we look at that picture and automatically it just doesn't look normal. So that's our starting point. If we want to talk about kind of inequality, the starting point is just even our reaction to the picture, I think, that becomes on the screen. But I think we have to talk about, and again, we look at this picture of a female coaching in the NBA, and we're surprised. It doesn't look the norm. It creates an emotion in us that's maybe not normal. But I think we have to think about gender inequality in realistic, concrete kind of ways. What's the equality of opportunity? What are the jobs out there that men and women are given equal opportunity to perform in those jobs? What's the equality of compensation? Certainly the argument that's out there with our women's national team, but I'll show you some data later. What's the equality of expectations? And with that goes, what's the equality of evaluation? Are we evaluated in the same way as our male counterparts? And then what's the equality of the environment? To me, the argument about the playing fields that they play on and how playing fields are assessed before a national team game is scheduled to go on them is as much a gender equality issues as how much players are getting paid. So the equality of the environment, I think, is really important. If we talk just about opportunity, there's some numbers up on the screen. The pie chart sort of to the right is just women's soccer coaches in Division I soccer at this point in time. If you look at those numbers and you add up the white male and minority males that are in there, it's over 70% males coaching women's teams. This is just women's teams. If you look at college coaches in general, and I speak from the college games because one, it's the game I'm in, and two, it's the one where the numbers are gathered on a regular basis. I wish we had these sort of numbers in our youth soccer world, because my guess is even at women's teams, the graph in the youth soccer world would look much like what men's teams in the college look like, where only 3 or 4% of women are coaching. So if you just look at that graph, you can tell equality of opportunity and a lot of that is because we talk about the value of diversity, and I'll address this a little bit later. And I will say this as a female. I always want a male on my staff because they give me a perspective that's different. We see things a little bit differently. But we will only have equality when a male coach of a men's team can sit up here and say the exact same thing. I will always have a female on my staff because they give me a different perspective. Then we have reached equality, or at least are moving towards it. As long as it's only women saying, I value the contribution of a male coaching women, we'll never have equality until men stand up and say, I value the contributions of a woman coaching my male athletes. There's just a longitudinal study for those of us that go back to the days of 1972 before Title IX. We realized that women's sports was dominated by women. There were women administrators, there were women's coaches, because we ran our own world. As soon as we let men take over our world, sorry to be so blunt about that, the opportunities for us started to greatly decrease. And you see that. And you would hope that this graph at this point in time had turned back towards women being at least to a place where we were, 50% of our own coaches, but we haven't reached that, at least not in 2012. And some of these NCAA studies don't go that fast. So I wish I could give you today's numbers. But if we just look at, and again, this is from my world, but I think it exists everywhere. If you talk about compensation, that's overall head coach's salary, overall assistant coach's salary, line on the bottom being men's salaries, line on the top being female salaries. And it's not just a division problem. There's Division II assistants at the top. There's Division III head coaching salaries at the bottom. And here is the biggest thing. It's not just about football either. Take American football out of the equation, and the discrepancy still exists. So you take the sport where people, so these are sports where they're men's and women's basketball. We're taking a sport that, women don't play out of the equation, and still there's a compensation difference in the world that we live in, both in the head coaching and the assistant coaching. It's a little bit harder to make it objective when you talk about expectations and evaluations, but results, appearance, and I'll tell a personal story. My brother coached in the youth ranks, and he and I look alike in facial structure, although he would say he's a lot more rotund than I am, which is true, thank goodness. But he will admit that I couldn't look like him and coach where I coach. That appearance alone, his fitness level, wouldn't impede him from doing things in the profession, but it would me. Coaching philosophy, coaching behavior, and I think Carla just alluded to it, right? If a female coach is seen as someone who can mother the young ones, not someone who can challenge the elite of the elite. A men's coach is seen as a hard ass, a woman's coach is seen as a bitch, and the hard ass is said in a very positive way, and I'm not so sure that the bitch is said with the same tone. A male is seen as a player's coach, a woman may be seen as soft. And those evaluations and the way that we evaluate coaching behavior, coach-player interactions, coaching philosophies, results, appearance, et cetera, those need to be evaluated, or there's an equality that has to be addressed when it comes to those. And then what's the environment that you coach in as a female? What are the social norms? There's one of our youth national teams that's almost a full male staff, and then a woman coaching a college team. What are the norms? And what is the institutional sexism? Sexism is alive in our country in every avenue. So when I say institutionalized, I don't mean a college institution. I mean institutionalized in terms of our culture. I had an interesting conversation and talk about player biases. A friend of mine who was an associate AD was in the process of hiring a coach and talking to the players and getting feedback from them on what they wanted. She said about 90% of her female players said they wanted a male coach because that's what they've always had. But there was even a perception from the players that a male coach could push them more than that female counterpart. Even from the players themselves, female players at the college level, and that's something socialized in them, and that's something I think we still have to battle, our player biases. I learned this term from my nieces and nephews, twatty. That's the way we've always done things. That's the way we've always done it. We have to fight that all the time. So many of these gender inequalities and gender biases are because there's an institutional history of sexism, and it's not that people remain sexist, but practices remain sexist because it's the way they've always done them, and the sexism from the past continues to infiltrate the policies and the procedures and the actions that we have within the organizations that we all belong to. You said it, USASA has been men-driven for decades. Well, within each of the policies and procedures, there become things. The language of documents are sexist, and we don't even see how some of those things make it difficult for women to come into an organization or come into an environment. So that's the what, right? So the analyst in me said, well, what's the how? Like, how do we address this? How do we move towards equality? Because we can all talk about it. We can all say we don't like it. We can all say it exists. So I found this great study or article that was written in an actual journal article of theoretical things about gender inequality in sport. And it was probably the first thing I read that gave me a direction. And I hope maybe gives us direction in terms of maybe directing the conversation that we have about how we go about changing this. Because the article talked about 3 pressures that can change institutional gender inequality. And it was a model that affected, that was drawn from other areas, but that she took and said, I think we can apply this to the situation of gender inequality. One is political pressure, and it's changed from the outside. So when you heard all of the speakers that have spoken before me today talk about pressuring people to do things, standing up, marching for things, advocating for things, that's a political pressure that actually changes rules, regulations, policies and procedures. Those are political pressures. Title IX was a political pressure to change things. And it changes rules and policies and legislation. Political pressure is one of the ways that we can change things. Functional pressure, and I think this one may be the greatest, right? And again, I use this example. Functional pressure means it is better when women are involved, right? It is better. We need to get to the place and we need to talk about and promote and prove and show that whether it's marketing at MLS, coaching at Division III college level, it doesn't matter. The ASA, the AYSO, any organization we have, that organization is functionally better when it is diverse, gender diverse. It's better when it's diverse. We could take gender out of this equation and talk just about diversity, but that organization is better. And partly because of the soft skills that women bring to the table, the collaboration, the cooperation. So when we can functionally put functional pressure on by proving and by selling and by owning that your organization is going to be better when you have a female involved in it, we put functional pressure on organizations to change because they want to be the best. Hiring women is going to make you better. Getting women involved is going to make you better. We have to believe that, and we have to put pressure on organizations to do that. MLS marketing is better because Amanda is involved in it. Because they're not just marketing to men, they're marketing to people. They're marketing to soccer people. And her vision and her contribution to that team is extremely valuable. Emma's coaching staff's probably not all female. But I would disagree, not disagree. Regrettably, maybe. But here's the thing. What is regrettable is that a male staff, and even one of our own national teams, is an all-male staff. Right? Because I would argue that an all-female staff isn't the best staff you can have either. Right? But we have to move to a diverse staff is the best staff. A gender-diverse staff is the best staff. That's the end of the story. And I think we model that as females when we bring a male into our staff, right? But it can't just be, I need to have a female because someone needs to be able to walk into the locker room. The bitch in me says bullshit on that answer, pardon me. Right? We need a female on our staff because it makes our staff better. And it makes our organization better. There's the functional pressure. And then there's a social pressure. And this happens to go in with the leadership. There is a social pressure when we can change the inner thinking of an organization because it changes at the top. And that comes to leadership. So we talked about positions of leadership. And again, here's where I look at the numbers. There's the percentage of college director of athletics by division and gender. How can we change the environment we're in when the leadership continues to remain dominated and institutionalized in the gender, non-diverse gender environment that they come from? So leadership is a way that we can influence change. And our willingness to apply for those positions, to lead from those positions, to encourage women to apply for those, for men to encourage women to apply for those. I think those pressures are where we are going to change the institutionalized sexism that exists in sport and certainly in our sport. Functional pressure, social pressure, and I've forgotten the first one. Have to go back to my slide. Political pressure, thank you. Right? We can change it from the outside, we can change it from the inside, we can change it from the top. And I think we have to be willing to look at those. Again, the conversation is, I think I've given us a direction to have conversations about how we change it. But I think it's important that we have conversations. Who's in a position to change it politically? Who's in a position to change it functionally? Who's in a position to change it socially? Can people in position of leadership change those? Again, female athletic directors, since Title IX, has greatly reduced and is a small percentage of the leadership that exists out there. The upper quadrant there, it's conference personnel. These are just people in conference offices. Conferences have female and male teams. They compete in sports in both genders. Why isn't there a more gender equal distribution of leadership at the conference office level? They make policies, they make procedures. They and then deal with their inability to deal with failure if that happens. You know what? We're all going to fail. We will fail together. We will fail. It's okay. As long as you continue to get better. So, and the way that happens is by using the people around you. And I think even as women, we tend to shy away from women that have failed. Let's don't be associated with No. Women who have failed are the women who can teach us the most. It's why I sit here. I will tell you that. I sit here not because of the successes I've had, because those are few and far between. I sit here because of the failures I've had, because you can count them a lot more. But they are what has allowed me to continue to get back up here and go, well, if this presentation flops, so be it. Right? But it's that part that I think that helps us too. Yes, sir.
Yeah. You feel in the women's ranks, because I kind of see it in the U.S. adults, is that the successful woman, there's sometimes a sense of jealousy amongst each other. That do you think that's a barrier to get them somewhere, or determine? I don't know. I mean, I kind of see that sometimes in the women that's starting to get into higher positions, that there's a sense of like, why is she there and I'm not there? That kind of thing.
Well, I think if you look at so there's where the equality of opportunity comes in. And I think in this country, I don't want to get on a political soapbox, but one of the things that has caused inequality around and division and fighting for things is our fear of scarcity. We fear that there's not enough to go around. There's not enough power for women to go around. There's not enough opportunity for women to go around. There's not enough opportunity for African Americans to go around. So we fear this scarcity. So when we have a little bit of it, we don't want to share it. I think what we have to understand is the more we share it, the more the opportunity for women grows. So yes, I do think that I don't think it's jealousy, I think it's fear of the scarcity of positions of power and influence. And so we see someone of power of influence and we think maybe there's not enough for me. Realize there is enough for you. Lynn doesn't take away power from any female out there. She's in a position of great power. That does not impede anyone in this room from having positions of great power. And I agree with Lynn. One of the things I probably wrote down in a little circle, power isn't about influencing people. And I think I always thought that was. Power is about getting things done. And there is room enough for all of us to get things done. And I think that's true outside the sport of soccer, that as women we fear that the path, that there's only a few places where you get through the glass ceiling, and if someone else gets through, I might not have a chance to get through. Let's just blow the glass ceiling out of the water and we can all get through. I think that's the attitude that women have to have if we're going to get to this place of equality. Sure.
I have a question too. Do you think, you were saying once you get to that position, to not be scared to fail? And I think Diane knows me well enough that that's not something I am scared to do. But are we being put in positions where we are going to learn from those failures? I coach and I also work in pro sports, and I think that I'm in a coaching stance. I'm being put in positions to coach and mold young minds, which is fine. And I've coached in California, I've coached U8 through U13, all of different ages. But when they get to a certain level, my director then says, okay, you've done your role, you've coached them to this point, and maybe if you let me go with them to U16 and I do fail, which is fine, I'll learn more from that experience. Then how do you objectify a fail for a U7 girls team? I mean, yes, you can fail on a massive scale. I'm not saying you can't.
Right.
But am I going to learn as much from that failure as I would from a U13 boys team or a U17 girls team? There is a point where I can push through and say, I want this team or I want that team, and I can rally for myself. But is that failure going to teach me as much as a failure at a higher coaching level, I guess?
Well, and I guess in answer to that question is, if I want to be a great U7 coach, then I want to keep doing that and learning. And if I want to coach at a higher level, then yes, I've got to have a place where I can learn from. And so it's, and that's where we need advocates and the opportunities, and it cracks me up in the world of men's college football. No one fails; they just recycle themselves to somewhere else. There isn't such thing as failure, and even probably in our own sport it happens. But you see the men cycling, you don't see the women cycling around. You don't see them fail and get a job somewhere else. You don't see them, and again, I think it's Some of it is the attribution, and I can argue that I think in some ways, the attribution for failure is put to the female's lack of knowledge or lack of ability, whereas on the men's side, it's put to the player's lack of ability, or they couldn't handle that group of people, not that they didn't know the game, and so we certainly have to stand up for ourselves. But that's and I think Carla said it. She said we need people who don't put their foot on top of me, and that's if you're in that environment. And this is where women have to help each other. If you're in an environment where you're not allowed to try and fail, get the hell out. And that's a hard thing to be honest about, but it's true. If you're in an environment where you aren't being allowed to try and fail in order to move on, in order to grow, there's the courage, is to get out. So there is courage in leaving or in finding the environment where you actually have it's really easy to stay in something that's safe. But to be brave means to get into an environment where someone's going to put me in a place where maybe I have a chance to fail. But they're also going to support me, and I've got people around me that, if that happens, or even along the way, and failures don't have to be, you don't have to get fired to be, to consider it a failure. There are failures every season because there's some player in my team that I didn't get the best out of. That's a failure. I'm going to learn from that. I'm going to call Marcia McDermott, who's, if Emma and Amanda are calling each other with all those things, Marcia and I are calling each other with those things too. Marcia, here's what's happened. Because sometimes I need something outside of my staff. I don't want to tell my staff I don't know what to do, or I don't have an idea, right? We may want to be generating ideas. I better come in with one. I'm going to bounce ideas off of. Have those people in your life that can help you through those tough moments. So that you can go into that situation with confidence, and you're okay that if you try something, it doesn't work. I think that's important, but it is important that you have the courage to find an environment where you're valued as a contributor to that organization, not valued as a woman. There's the part where I think, Lynn, I don't want to be hired because I'm a woman. I want to be hired because I'm a valuable member of this staff. I'm a valuable member of this organization. I'm a valuable member of this group. I don't want to be asked to be a part of a group because I'm a woman. I want to be asked to be a part of a group because I have something to offer. And be in an organization, find those positions that value, know that, own that. One of the best pieces of advice that Marcia McDermott ever gave me was, you cannot change something you don't take responsibility for. So I was sitting over here and someone said that the people in this room aren't the people that we need to talk to. We're all members of the choir. But I disagree. Because the people in this room, if we take responsibility for changing gender inequality, the people in this room can. The people outside this room can't because they don't value the equality near as much as everyone in this room, male and female. If you're in this room, you value gender equality to some extent. You're here because you value the contributions that the women's game has to the sport of soccer and that women have to the profession of coaching. But you now have to take responsibility to change our environment, to put political pressure, to put functional pressure, to put social pressure on every entity and organization and place that you can influence. Because then we are the people actually who have the power to change it, because we truly believe in it. It is that belief that will change things. It will make people think about things that have been institutionalized for decades. Right? We will have gender equality when Dawn is the physiologist for our men's team. She probably doesn't want to be when the women's team is a lot more fun. But yeah, she's found it easy being a physiologist for the women's team and women in the game. But I also know the physiologist with the men's team, at least at the time, was a young person who came in after her. And he happens to be male. Now, I'm not saying she wanted the job. It was probably... But I'm saying, it's the people in this room that can change things, that can affect change. And wherever you are, I want you to think about the conversations and the words that you've heard from the people, and whether you have an opportunity to politically, functionally, or socially put pressure on the world around you that will influence gender equality, whether that's equality of compensation, equality of opportunity, equality of environment, quality of expectations, the quality of evaluations. Let's make sure that the playing field, in terms of our profession, starts to move towards a level of equality.